This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Gentlemen, and welcome to this super edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC, the Super GSMC Podcast Network. I am your super host for the super day. I am Josh Strickland. It's the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl's today, if you couldn't get it. So hopefully you are listening to this before the Super Bowl starts here, 6:30 on the East Coast. And of course, it's between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. And so let me give you a quick rundown of what this episode's going to be like. So this episode, I'm going to go in depth on the season of the 49ers. I'm going to go in depth on the season of the Kansas City Chiefs. And then I'm going to go in depth on the halftime show. And then we're going to go over prop bets. Then we're going to go over the actual game. And then the last topic is going to be about the NFL awards. So if you want to skip around, like you don't care about the halftime show or you don't care about the prop bets, that's perfectly fine for me. I just kind of inserted those in to kind of give it a break, let all the facts that I'm going to give you, all the information I'm going to give you in the two individual in-depth segments, let that kind of sink in. And then once I do the matchup, hopefully you get where I'm coming from when we get to that point. So there you go. That's what the show's going to be like. And of course, I have the halftime at the third segment because that's kind of the halfway point of the podcast. So it's funny. Anyways, let's start. We're going to start off with the San Francisco 49ers, who went 13-3. They won their division. They won the NFC West. They are the number one seed, I believe, out of the NFC. So 49ers. They started their season out 8-0. They beat teams such as Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. They beat the Browns, Rams, Redskins, Panthers, and Cardinals. So, to be completely honest, they started the season out 8-0, but they didn't really play anybody. But they dominated some of these teams. For instance, they beat the Buccaneers 31-17. They beat the Bengals 41-17. They barely beat the Steelers, but that was the Steelers are still a good team. They just lost Ben Roethlisberger. So beat the Browns 31-3. Rams 20-7. Beat the Redskins 9-0, which is a score, I guess. Beat the Panthers 51-13. Then the Cardinals, they squeaked out a win against the Cardinals at 28-25. Their first loss came in overtime against the Seahawks, which was another playoff team, of course. So their first major game they played, they lost to the Seahawks in overtime. It was a 24-27 game in overtime. Then they went on to play the Cardinals again, won by 10. Played the Packers, which was another playoff team, beat the Packers 37-8, stopping Aaron Rodgers on every chance. Then their second loss came to the Baltimore Ravens, which of course that's Lamar Jackson, the Lamar Jackson train going there. They lost 17-20. It was a really good game, one of the best games of the regular season. Then they went on to beat the New Orleans Saints 48-46, proving they can win shootouts. Then the weirdest loss of their season, they lost to the Falcons 22-29, which is the weirdest loss of either of these teams. So yeah, losing to the Falcons, it was interesting. I mean, the Falcons had 290 yards, 201 passing yards, 89 rushing yards. It's just weird. The 49ers had 193 passing, 120 rushing for a total of 313. So how this score got up to 22-29, I don't know. But I mean, The 49ers had 2 turnovers in that game, which kind of were big in there, of course. Then they beat the Rams 34-31. They beat the Seahawks to clinch the division and clinch the number 1 seed in the bye week. They beat them 26-21. And then, of course, in the playoffs, they played the Minnesota Vikings 127-10. They played the Packers trying to avenge their earlier game, but it did not work out well as it was 37-20, and here they are now in the Super Bowl. So, who are the key players? So, of course, everybody's going to be looking at Jimmy Garoppolo because everybody looks at the quarterbacks. However, I believe, based on the Packers game where he only threw like 10 passes, you don't really need Jimmy Garoppolo to perform that well to beat the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs have a better defense, I believe, than the Packers. So, Jimmy Garoppolo will need to actually, throw the ball at certain points in this game. Raheem Mostert is, of course, going to be an important part. If they can get that run game going like they did against Green Bay, then this might end badly for the Chiefs, as we'll get into when we talk about the Chiefs. I'm not talking about the matchups yet. George Kittle is, of course, always a big-time player. He's a big-time blocker and a big-time receiver. Deebo Samuel, you can put him anywhere, and he can do whatever you need him to do. Obviously, Emmanuel Sanders is an experienced wide receiver, veteran wide receiver, and he hasn't really done much this year. I mean, he's got 500 receiving yards, but he's still up there. So, of course, you have Tevin Coleman, another running back. So, the 49ers are going to try that rushing attack, as they always have. Then on the defense, you, of course, have Richard Sherman. Who is he going to go up against? The Chiefs have very fast receivers. So the secondary for the 49ers is going to be super important, like Kawan Williams. It's going to be important. Fred Warner and linebacker. Can the linebackers help in coverage at all against these receivers, these speedy receivers? Then, of course, you have that defensive line with Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, D Ford. All these 49ers have one of the best D-lines in the country, and it shows. They get pressure on every quarterback, every team they play. Eric Armstead leads the team with 10 sacks. Right behind him is Nick Bosa with 9. DeForest Buckner's got 7.5. D Ford's got 6.5. They force fumbles like no other. Kawan Williams got 4 forced fumbles. Fred Warner with 3, Marcel Harris with 3, Eric Armstead with 2, DeForest Buckner with 2, Nick Bosa's got 1 as well, for a total of 23 forced fumbles throughout the whole year. So this defense is going to come hard and fast. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs kind of game plan around this defensive line, and also to see if Richard Sherman can keep up. I mean, Richard Sherman's fast. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be interesting to see Richard Sherman try to keep up with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, and Mecole Hardman. All these extremely fast wide receivers. And, of course, you might have to have a linebacker cover them. Maybe at some point if the Chiefs can get a run game going. So, yeah, but like I said, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably going to be forced to actually throw the ball a little bit, which I believe he is capable of, but he has made some mistakes going in before this game. He's made some mistakes, and it's definitely shown that I'm not saying that Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo, but it is very apparent that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have as free reign of the offense or as much of an approval as Patrick Mahomes. So it's going to be interesting to see Jimmy Garoppolo in this game. We'll see if he lives up to what he needs to do. By the way, he's 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, just under 4,000 yards for the year. Yard per attempt is 8.4. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. He's been sacked 36 times, which is a decent bit. He gets sacked 7% of the time when attempting a pass, which is kind of not good for the 49ers offensive line. But there you go. That's my in-depth look at the 49ers. Admittedly, my Kansas Chiefs in-depth is going to be a little bit better, but that's going to be on the other side of this commercial break. So when I see you in the next segment, we'll be talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and what they have, their season, how their season's gone, and who their key players are.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So the Kansas City Chiefs, they've been kind of hyped up this entire year because of Patrick Mahomes, because of Patrick Mahomes' MVP season last year. You got Andy Reid, who's one of the, in my opinion, one of the all-time great coaches. And so, yeah. So they started the season they ended the season 12-4. They started out 4-0, handily beating the Jaguars, the Raiders. They had a close win against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson and the Detroit Lions. Their first loss came to the Indianapolis Colts. Colts dominated the Chiefs at the line of scrimmage, shut down Patrick Mahomes. It was shut down, by the way, in quotations, as Patrick Mahomes still had 321 passing yards and a touchdown, but the Chiefs only had 36 rushing yards. Marlon Mack for the Colts had 132 rushing yards, and the Colts relentlessly pressured Patrick Mahomes, making sure he had no time in the pocket to make any, to wait for any long developing plays that the Chiefs usually run because of their speedy receivers not work out. So there you go. They had a second loss to the Texans. Carlos Hyde ran for 116 yards and a touchdown. Mahomes hobbled with a sore left ankle, but still finished with 273 yards and 3 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns went to Tyreek Hill. So after that, Mahomes goes out for 3 weeks with a dislocated kneecap. These 3 weeks include games against the Broncos, the Packers, and the Vikings. So you have the Broncos, who admittedly aren't that good. They had a better than expected year this year, but then you have the Packers and the Vikings. Both teams made the playoffs in the NFC. So, with Matt Moore as their quarterback, the Chiefs took 2 out of 3 of these games. They beat I believe they beat the Broncos and the Vikings. So they took 2 out of 3 of those games. That's very impressive slate to take 2 out of 3, especially without Patrick Mahomes, without your starting quarterback. Mahomes returns for a game against the 5-5 Tennessee Titans. The game ended with a blocked field goal to give the Titans a 35-32 win. Derrick Henry ran for 188 yards, which is insane, including a 60-yard touchdown run. The Chiefs outgained the Titans 530 yards to 371, and Mahomes threw for 446 yards and 3 touchdowns in his return from a dislocated kneecap, unfortunately in a loss to the 5-5 Tennessee Titans. But after that, a fire got lit up in the Chiefs, I guess, as the Chiefs went on to win the last 6 games in a row, including wins against the Chargers twice, the Raiders, Patriots, Broncos, and Bears. So, of course, you have the key win against the New England Patriots, which, if you are not aware, that was the famous equipment malfunction where their equipment didn't come in the same flight or something like that. So they kind of rush it to the stadium. They had to find it and then rush it to the stadium. They took a early 20-7 lead, held off the Patriots to win 23-16. They overcame some mistakes later in the game. Mahomes was 26 of 40 for 283 yards with a touchdown and interception. Played through a hand injury, supposedly. The defense rushed Tom Brady all game, and Brady finished 19 of 36 for 169 yards with a touchdown and interception. Chiefs leading rushers Damian Williams and Darrell Williams, which first off, can we discuss this real quick? Their two leading rushers are Damian Williams and Darrell Williams. Are they related, or is this just a huge coincidence? I couldn't tell you, because it's just crazy how coincidental that would be. But there you have it. Darrell and Damian Williams, both the leading rushers. They were both out. LaShawn McCoy finished with 11 rushes for 39 yards in this win against New England. So I decided to look, why did they have these two close games against the Chargers? Because they played the Chargers twice in this final stretch, and I think both times the Chargers held Patrick Mahomes under 200 yards. So in the two close games against the Chargers, both games Mahomes was held under 200 yards passing. Like I said, defense, the Chiefs defense got 4 interceptions for Phillip Rivers in the first game, including one at the goal line with 18 seconds to play to end the game. And I was looking into it, and I was seeing if the Chiefs did, or the Chargers did anything different that other teams weren't doing, and not really. They were trying to run the ball, but they didn't really get anything going. The Chargers, of course, Phillip Rivers kind of had like 400 something yards, but threw 4 picks. So it seemed like the Chargers were just throwing the ball all over the place, trying to keep up with Patrick Mahomes, but old man Rivers could not do it. In their second game against the Chargers, Mecole Hardman had a 104-yard kickoff return, and Darren Williams rushed for 124 yards on 12 rushes, which is pretty good. And I'm not sure if it was Darren or Damian, because it just said D. Williams, so I assumed it was Darren. But so, of course, you have the playoffs where they played Houston, went down 24-0 against Houston, and then scored 7 straight touchdowns to win the game. So Houston had all the breaks going for them in that first quarter, where they took a 24-0 lead. They had blocked punts, blocked field goals. They had everything was going the Texans' way. So what this tells me is either that Bill O'Brien, who just got hired as the GM of the Texans, he's going to be there for a while. Either Bill O'Brien just doesn't know how to win football games when you're up 24-0, or the Chiefs just have that fire, just have that drive to come back from behind and win. But to be fair, they were down 24-0 at the end of the first quarter. It's a lot easier when you have 3 full quarters rather than just 2. Which, once again, to swoop this back around, this is not as bad as 28-3, because 28-3 happened late in the third quarter, and then they blew it late in the third quarter. Like, literally, the Patriots scored their first touchdown at the end of the third quarter, and then they had the whole fourth quarter, and they blew it. So, anyways, sorry. Then they played the Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry. Everybody was kind of like, this might be it for the Chiefs, as the Chiefs have the running back issue. They can't stop the run, stuff like that. Derrick Henry had 188 yards the first time they played, but they won 35-24. Mahomes with 294 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. They were down 17-7 before building a 36-17 lead. Holding Derrick Henry to only 7 yards rushing in the whole second half, with 69 rushing yards total. So that brings us to the key players, and obviously, key player here is Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he had 4,031 yards during the season with 26 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. He didn't throw his first interception until like the 5th game of the year. So, of course, he's very important. He's last year's MVP. His QBR is 78. He's been sacked 17 times. He's elusive. He knows how to get out of the pocket. He knows how to not get sacked as often. He knows how to extend plays. Then, of course, on this other side, we talked about George Kittle for the 49ers. We're going to talk about Travis Kelce for the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, of course, he's the 30-year-old tight end. He's leading the team in receptions with over 1,000 receiving yards. He's definitely the main target for the Chiefs, as with the speedy receivers of Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, and Demarcus Robinson. Those guys are so speedy that you don't have a lot of people underneath to cover Travis Kelce. And of course, like I said, you got Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. They are speed demons. They will go down the field. Sammy Watkins, he has not as much of a key player as Tyreek Hill. I'm going with Tyreek Hill for the key player on the receiver side. But Sammy Watkins is definitely one to look at as he performs. If you notice in past couple games, he performs in bigger games. Then, of course, you have Damian and Darrell Williams, the two running backs. It's going to be interesting to see if they can get any run game going. They also have LaShawn McCoy on that team as well. Damian Williams has 498 yards on the season. LaShawn McCoy has 465, and then Darrell only has 141. So I'm assuming Damian's going to be the main rusher. LaShawn McCoy is going to be the number 2. Then you also have Spencer Ware, who might not be on the team anymore, to be honest. I'm looking at Pro Football Reference, so it's just showing me who's leading and rushing. And then on the defense, you got Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, of course, in there. Then you got Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Emmanuel Ogbah, Alex Okafor, Tano Kapasagnon. These guys, that's a really good D-line, as well as Chris Jones has 9 sacks, Frank Clark has 8, Emmanuel Ogbah's got 5.5, Okafor's got 5, and then Tano's got 4. You got Tyrann Mathieu, like I said, the Honey Badger. He is all over the place. He knows where every play is going. He's going to be tough to stop. So there you go. That is the recap of the Kansas City Chiefs season and some key players for this game. So when we come back, it is halftime. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a little talk about the halftime show. All right.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to Extreme Cage Fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Man, it's the halftime of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and that means we're going to have a musical guest come on, and by that I mean nobody's singing because you don't want to hear me sing. The halftime show, it is one of the biggest parts of the Super Bowl now. Obviously, most people who are listening to this podcast probably don't care as much about the halftime show, but there are people that care a lot about the halftime show. Like, for instance, I told my girlfriend about Shakira and Jennifer Lopez, and she was just like, ooh, that's going to be great. So, people are interested in the halftime show, and I'm going to talk about it because why not? It's the Super Bowl special. Might as well talk about the halftime show. It was either going to be this or the commercials, but I haven't seen any of the commercials yet because I don't know why these companies ruin the commercial surprise by putting them on YouTube, but I like watching them live, watching commercials live. So, yeah. So, of course, it is Jennifer Lopez and Shakira that are slated to perform the 2020 Super Bowl halftime show. It's in Miami, Florida, so it fits to have Jennifer Lopez and Shakira showcase this halftime show. This article from Yahoo Finance says it's a historical selection, represents a turning point for the NFL as the league looks to become more culturally inclusive organization, which makes sense because NFL is trying to get more into Mexico, more into these Latin countries. So it makes sense that they are looking towards these NFL, of course, took huge criticism over its handling of former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick and his 2016 take a knee movement. A lot of people were angry about that. No matter which side of the fence you were on, more than likely you were kind of angry by how the NFL handled it. So, of course, you had big-time celebrities like Rihanna and Cardi B boycott the NFL in solidarity of Kaepernick, and the league quickly began to feel the impact and ratings and public opinion. So, fun fact, the 2019 Super Bowl attracted its lowest audience in over a decade, with only 98.2 million viewers tuning in. Critics flocked to Twitter to attack the game's all-white, all-male halftime performers, which was Maroon 5. Besides the fact that it had Travis Scott and stuff like that on there. But Sunday night could be a big step in fixing this battered image of the NFL. The first Super Bowl halftime show, which was co-produced in partnership with rapper turned billionaire businessman Jay-Z. New alliance announced back in August represents a conscious effort by the NFL to improve its reputation and revamp its social injustice initiative. Jay-Z and his entertainment media company Rock Nation will serve as the league's live music entertainment strategist moving forward, which means Jay-Z and his company right here will be making the future decisions for Super Bowl halftime shows, which is fine, I guess. It's just, I mean, there's a little, I mean, I don't know. There's a little conflict of interest there, I suppose, but it makes sense. I don't think Jay-Z wants to perform the halftime show, but whatever. But the NFL famously doesn't pay its Super Bowl halftime performers, but the post-performance surge, many of these artists experience well worth the lack of a paycheck. So basically, the Super Bowl has pretty much is too big to pay people at this point. So the Super Bowl basically doesn't pay the performers, but they're pretty much just like, hey, the exposure you're going to get is going to increase because of this, because this is the most watched television program in the entire world. Most watched program in the entire world. Nothing beats the Super Bowl, especially in America. So most Americans, at least 1/3 of Americans, according to ratings, it could be more than that because of parties and stuff like that, but at least 1/3 of Americans are watching the Super Bowl. So performing in the Super Bowl halftime show definitely is a popularity boost. Last year, Maroon 5 saw a sales spike of nearly 500,000 following the group's Super Bowl 53 performance, according to Nielsen ratings. Justin Timberlake's same-day music sales jumped 534% after his 2018 show, while Lady Gaga's digital catalog surged about 1,000% the year prior. So obviously, you're going to get more streams if you are on the Super Bowl halftime show. Now let's discuss the actual show. I just want to figure out what kind of weird things could happen here. So, is Pitbull going to be in the show? Because the past few years, the halftime show has been very guest heavy. Like last year, Maroon 5 had Travis Scott. I think Bruno Mars has been on it for like 3 years in a row or something like that. There's always guests in the Super Bowl halftime show. So I'm wondering if Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305, or whatever the Miami area code is, I want to know if Pitbull is going to be here. And if he's not there, is this travesty? I don't necessarily like Pitbull, but he is synonymous with Miami for reasons unknown. Because, I mean, that's just how that's his persona and stuff like that. So, is Pitbull going to be joining the stage? I know I think he's had songs with Shakira. I'm not sure. I don't know if he's had songs with Jennifer Lopez or not, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plans out. I'm also interested in how big of an extravaganza it's going to be. I feel like no show has been as big as in the past. They haven't really been that big. Like Maroon 5 was kind of boring. I remember Katy Perry Super Bowl halftime show was kind of like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. There was like a lion or something, and then they had dancing sharks and stuff like that. And that was, I mean, it was fun to watch, I guess, because it was entertaining. And of course, you had Beyonce. Beyonce had a bunch of cool stuff going on during her show as well. But I feel like in the past couple years, like Lady Gaga had the stupid jumping off the top of the stadium thing, which was so fake. But I mean, I guess that was entertaining, but other than that, I don't really remember anything else from that show. So I'm just wondering if there's going to be anything interesting, meme-worthy, or entertaining about this show coming up. I mean, when I think of Shakira, I think Hips Don't Lie. I think my Spanish class, where my teacher played that all the time. When I think Jennifer Lopez, I think Alex Rodriguez, to be honest, and like a bunch of movies that she's been in. So I'm trying to figure out like what. Obviously, they're going to have like a Miami Latina theme, obviously. But I'm not sure how it's going to be. Are they going to be like palm trees? So they're going to be like some cool stuff going on. I'm not sure. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. It's going to be interesting how people react to it. It's going to be a very high intensity halftime show because most of their songs are high intensity. They're like dancing music. So it's going to be very interesting to see people try to keep up with that, try to keep up with the dancing music. But anyways, that's pretty much all I can talk about the halftime show because I don't know anything about it. I could probably talk more about it after it happens because when I have notes and stuff. I just thought the streaming thing was interesting. I thought mentioning that Jay-Z is now in charge of Super Bowl halftime shows was interesting. So I just wanted to read that out to you guys. If you don't find that interesting, sorry. But we'll get back to more fun next when we talk about prop bets. We're going to talk about the best prop bets going on coming up next.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Prop bets. My favorite part about the Super Bowl is the prop bets. All the stupid ones, all the actual ones, and we're going to go down this list of mostly stupid ones that I want to go over before we go into my official prediction for the Super Bowl. And once again, I'm sorry if you're trying to get into my official prediction, you can just skip over these last two segments, and if you just want to hear me talk about prop bets, that's fine too. So, first one that I can see here will be the primary color of Demi Lovato's outfit. That's the first prop bet. So the odds are black, 125, red, 200, blue, 300, gray, 500, green, 800, and then pink is 800 as well. So she rocked white at the Grammys. She's probably going to change it up for the national anthem. She is singing the national anthem, by the way. Black is simple. Red or blue would be patriotic, of course. Probably lean into black. Nothing's really high enough to... By the way, you can do all this on MyBookie. So if you see this, if you listen to this before the game starts, you can actually bet on this stuff. So will Demi Lovato omit a word during the national anthem? Yes or no? Yes is plus 350. No is negative 600. It's a regular prop bet since Christina Aguilera had a flub in 2011. Value is always on no. Laying $6 to win $10 never feels good. But if you have faith in Lovato to get the job done, there's money to be made. So I think she'll do fine. Demi Lovato is a really good performer from what I've noticed. So will Demi Lovato use a mic stand? Yes, minus 180. No, plus 140. So she didn't use the mic stand at the Grammys. But in my experience in the past, the national anthem is always used with a mic stand. I don't know. She could do the thing where she like turns and like dips. I don't know. This is actually a pretty good one in my opinion. I think Mike stands more likely than anything. Will a player take a knee during the national anthem? Yes, plus 700. No, negative 1,500. I feel like nobody's going to kneel, actually, but it depends. It is the 49ers, but I feel like nobody on the 49ers right now actually played with Colin Kaepernick, so that's an interesting one. Over under 5.5 seconds it takes for Lovato to sing Brave at the end of the national anthem. You know, everybody holds on that note on Brave at the national anthem, so it's the over under is 5.5 seconds, which is over is minus 150, under is plus 110. I think it will go under. I feel like Demi Lovato doesn't usually hold notes that often, so we'll see. I don't know anything. Will any team have a scoring drive that takes less time than the national anthem? Which, of course, depends on how long the national anthem is, and then it depends on if any team can score that fast. So, in my experience in the past, the national anthem for the Super Bowl has always been about a minute and a half. Sometimes it goes up to 2, depending on who it is. So, that's interesting. The yes is minus 250. No is 205, plus 205. So, it's interesting. It's an interesting bet there. I think yes. I think the Chiefs, if they go down early or the Chiefs start out hot, the Chiefs can easily score in under 2 minutes. Easily. So, especially with those weapons there. So this possibly could happen. We'll see about it. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Will a Chiefs player or a 49ers player be shown first during singing the national anthem? I think it's going to be a Chiefs player. Chiefs is minus 120, 49ers is minus 120. A true coin toss. They're probably going to show Patrick Mahomes first since he is the biggest star of the game. Or the Jimmy Garoppolo is also up there. Richard Sherman could be in there. I think if anyone kneels during the national anthem, they're definitely going to get shown, but or not shown, depending on how Fox does it, how close Fox and the NFL are working together on this. But I think Patrick Mahomes is going to get that. So there you go. Will Andy Reid wear a hat? Yeah, this is a stupid one. Andy Reid always wears a hat. Like, that's a stupid. Will Kyle Shanahan wear a hat? This one's a little bit more of a coin toss, but I feel like Kyle Shanahan's been wearing those flat bills lately, so I think Kyle Shanahan will wear a hat. So, will Kyle Shanahan blow a 28-3 lead, which of course is referencing when he was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, when they blew a 28-3 lead to the Patriots. It's a cheeky bet. This is just to make fun of Shanahan, I guess, but it's 101 odds for yes. I highly doubt they'll blow a 28-3 lead because I feel like the 49ers have the rushing attack to not blow a lead like that, so we'll see. Will the broadcast mention Patriots 28-3 comeback? Of course. This is not even a question. They are going to mention it at least 3 times. 1, because it's a Super Bowl moment. 2, because of Kyle Shanahan. 3, because of Jimmy Garoppolo. So this is a lock. It's yes and minus 380, no plus 240. I think it's a lock. I don't even think this is worth the bet on because it's so not interesting of a bet. Next, we got, will Andy Reid use all of his timeouts? Minus 125. No is minus 105. This seems pretty fair. Andy Reid has a reputation of a poor time management. It's kind of faded away in recent years, but no doubt Patrick Mahomes' ability to score no matter how little time is remaining on the clock helps with the timeout situation. Timeout usage is rather random. If you think the Chiefs have a good shot at running away with this game, betting no feels like the right side here, as Mahomes might just be kneeling the game away at the end. This game goes to the wire, there's a good chance Kansas City will need all the time they can get. So it's really depending on either how much behind you think Kansas City is going to get, or how close the game's going to get for Kansas City to actually use up timeouts. Next up, will Andy Reid run out of challenges? That's a yes. Andy Reid always uses challenges, and you bet in the Super Bowl they're going to use challenges, which this might actually go into the last bet, because if he challenges something and it doesn't go, then they use up a timeout. So these two are kind of hand in hand. The yes is plus 400, no is minus 714, which is a very interesting minus. But yeah, I think he will. Will a fair catch kick be attempted? 150 to 1 odds. The fair catch kick, similar to Shanahan blowing a 28 lead, this bet demands such an exact sequence of events to happen in the right order. With almost no time remaining in the first half or game, one team will have to be backed up close to its own end zone and punt the ball away. The returner will have to call for a fair catch, and then the head coach will have to decide that the fair catch kick is the team's best option to get on the board. Just one fair catch kick was attempted across NFL this season. Before that, its most recent usage was 2013. So I'm going to go with a heavy no on this one. It's a very obscure rule that not many teams take advantage of. Like it said, only one team used it this year, and other than that, it hasn't been used since 2013. So interesting, but over under 2.5 wardrobe changes for Jennifer Lopez. Over is minus 250, under is plus 170. Jennifer Lopez is known to change outfits throughout her performances. She's probably going to do a whole medley of songs, so her going 3 costume changes is not out of the realm of possibility. So, and she did that on the Today Show. She had she changed her outfit twice during the Today Show, so it's going to be interesting. Will Alex Rodriguez be shown during the halftime show? Probably, because he is from Miami. His wife, Jennifer Lopez, is the halftime performer, so yeah, he will probably be shown. Will J-Lo show butt cleavage during her halftime performance, which means showing any of her posterior at all? I'm not 100% sure on that, but we'll see. Will Will Smith make an appearance at the halftime show? Possible. He does have a song about Miami. So that's possible. I can see that. I highly doubt it though, because this article says Pitbull is more likely Miami celeb to join J-Lo and Shakira on stage, like I said in the last segment. So we'll see about that. Who will the MVP thank first? Which, here are the odds. You got teammates plus 150, God plus 275, family plus 350, fans plus 400, city plus 550, coach plus 900, and no thanks offered plus 1600, and then the owner is plus 1800. This is kind of a crapshoot. MVP, we don't know who the MVP is. We don't know what the MVP's journey went through because we don't know who it is. So we don't know who they're going to thank. What color Gatorade will be poured on the winning coach? That's a good one. Purple is minus 222. Red is plus 200. Or clear/water is plus 300. Lime green, yellow, plus 400. Orange is plus 475. And the blue is plus 500. I think it depends on which team. I don't know why purple is such a strong favorite here. That's kind of confusing to me. But I think if the 49ers win, it will probably be red. If actually, no, both teams are red. So I'm going with red on this one. So, yeah. And then, will the winner of the Super Bowl attend the White House? Which, once again, it depends who wins. If the 49ers win, you got Nick Bosa, who's a huge Trump supporter. He will definitely go. I think either team who does will go. There will be some players who don't want to go. So that's up to whoever wins. Will Trump tweet during the Super Bowl? Of course, he's going to tweet during the Super Bowl. There's going to be like one commercial that he doesn't agree with or something like that. He's going to tweet during it. So, yeah. Which commercial will appear first, Trump or Bloomberg? Trump will actually probably have a commercial during the Super Bowl. I didn't even think about that. A political commercial. It's an election year, so we're going to get a lot of political commercials. And then, of course, the last one I will do, since I've gone way over on this segment, age of Puppy Bowl MVP. Over under 17.5 weeks. So if you don't know, the Puppy Bowl is what the Animal Planet does, and it's a adorable little thing going on. Who will be the MVP of the Puppy Bowl, and how old will that puppy be? Plus 130 for over 17.5 weeks. Under is minus 170. So I'm going with the under on this. I think younger puppies have more energy to them. So there's my stupid prop bets. There's my stupid prop bets. When we come back from this break, I will actually talk about the actual game and make my predictions. Thank you for listening to the stupid babble that I just did for 12 and a half minutes.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So let's get into it. Here it is. The Super Bowl. This is a weird Super Bowl to me, honestly, because the past couple of years have been teams that I don't really care about, mostly the Patriots. Because when the Patriots make it, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, they're good. They're a good team. They're well coached and stuff like that. But I never thought that the Patriots were the best team that year. You know what I'm saying? Like when the Patriots played the Eagles a couple years ago, I didn't think the Eagles were the best team in the league. I didn't think the Patriots were the best team in the league. Last year, I thought the Rams were pretty good. I didn't think the Patriots were that good, but of course, Patriots won. And then a couple years ago, you had Patriots Falcons. That was a good game just overall because of the comeback and stuff like that. But I didn't think the Patriots were that good. It's very hard to like the Patriots when it seems like they're in the Super Bowl almost every year. And this year is actually a year where I believe two of the best teams in the league are in the game. So that's interesting to me. We're just going to go through rankings real quick before I get my final decision. So team offense, 49ers is second ranked. Kansas City is 5th ranked. Passing offense, Kansas City is 5th. San Francisco is 13th. Rushing offense, 49ers are 2nd. Kansas City is 23rd. And then scoring offense, Kansas City is 7th. San Francisco is 8th. So they're very close to each other right there. And then defensive stats, you got team defense, Kansas City is 7th. 49ers are 8th, which is actually surprising to me. But passing defense, 49ers have the number 1 passing defense. Kansas City has the 8th passing defense. Rushing defense, 49ers are 17th. Kansas City is 26th, which is interesting to me because I thought the 49ers had a really good defensive line. So maybe teams just don't run in on them as much. I'm not sure. But scoring defense, Kansas City is 7th. 49ers are 8th. So they're very close on takeaways and scoring and holding opponents under a certain amount of things. So let's get into it. Kansas City, throughout the whole year, has had issues stopping the run. I mentioned before when I was going through my breakdown of their season, most of the games they lost, the opposing running back had over 100 yards rushing in all 4 of their losses. So yeah, like I said, Marlon Mack for the Colts had 132 yards. Derrick Henry for the Titans had 188 yards. Carlos Hyde had 116 yards for the Texans when they lost to the Texans. So, yeah. Kansas City, like I said, is 26th ranked rushing defense, which means that 49ers are going to run all over them. Kansas City is also the 8th ranked passing defense, which definitely means, so the 49ers are going to basically do what they did against the Packers. They're going to try to run the ball, and they're going to try to keep the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. Mostly because Jimmy Garoppolo is throwing some picks and some dire situations. I feel like Kyle Shanahan doesn't fully trust Jimmy Garoppolo to handle those big-time decisions and big-time moments. So I think they're going to hand the ball off a lot to their running backs here. They're going to hand it off to Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert and Matt Breida. They're going to hand it off to their running backs. They're going to let the running backs work. They're going to let this offensive line kind of destroy Kansas City in the trenches. Like I mentioned, when Kansas City lost to the Colts earlier in this year, and of course it's earlier this year, things have changed. They dominated them at the line of scrimmage. So if we go over to offense, that defensive line and the number 1 ranked passing defense of the 49ers facing off against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Kansas City is going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to be able to run the ball. And that's just the fact. Kansas City is not going to win this game just by passing, like they usually have. They have the 23rd ranked rushing offense, which is not the best. But they're going to have to get some rushing going, whether it be some sweeps with Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins, or they just got to not be one-dimensional, because the Chiefs being one-dimensional plays directly into the 49ers' hands in this game. 49ers defensive line is going to make Patrick Mahomes pressured. They're going to pressure Patrick Mahomes the entire game, and secondary is kind of iffy. Like I said, Richard Sherman, the other guys they have in the secondary, it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep up with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, and all these, and Mecole Hardman and all these guys. Travis Kelce, George Kittle. Tight ends are going to be a major role in this, as tight ends are both quarterbacks' favorite targets. My thing about that is George Kittle is really good at blocking, so he helps with the run game as well. So, and when he's on the field, you don't know if they're going to pass or run it. Travis Kelce, he's okay blocking. He's okay with rush, being part of the rushing attack. But most of the time when you see Travis Kelce on the field, he's going to be going out for a pass. And that's just the nature of the Kansas City Chiefs offense. That's the nature of the 49ers offense. Like I said, you got the number 2 rushing offense in the 49ers. They're number 2 behind the Baltimore Ravens, which had Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram rushing all over the league. Then you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who's the number 1 passing offense. Sorry, they're the number 5 passing offense behind the Rams, Falcons, Cowboys, Buccaneers, which those are teams that you don't expect them to be behind, but they're the only good team. They're the highest ranked good team that made the playoffs in passing offense. So one thing that I noticed throughout playoff games, the Chiefs don't quit. There is no quit in the Chiefs. So 49ers, they need to get up early. They need to get up early, and they need to stay up. That's pretty much what that's going to come down to. Andy Reid's a good enough coach to make adjustments, offensively at least, to overcome whatever the 49ers come out with on defense. So pretty much the 49ers need to get some stops early and score. They need to use that rushing attack against Kansas City and score a lot early to win this game. Because I'm telling you, after halftime, it's the Patrick Mahomes show. That offense is good enough that offense is too good to be stopped for a while. But if we take a look at the past couple of Super Bowls, especially last year's Super Bowl, defense kind of reigns king in the Super Bowl. Defense is definitely reign king in the Super Bowl. If you have a great defense, you're more than likely to win the Super Bowl. If you have a bad defense and you're playing in the Super Bowl, you're probably going to get shredded. Because you're facing the best of the best. These are the 2 best teams in the league. You're facing the best of the best. So Chiefs, their main thing, they did a really good job against Tennessee in stopping Derrick Henry. They kind of will probably need to use that. They will probably need to use that same strategy against the 49ers. Stop the rush attack. Stop Raheem Mostert, and stop George Kittle from getting open and taking away Jimmy Garoppolo's best target. Those are the 2 things that I think the Chiefs need to do to win this game defensively. Offensively, Patrick Mahomes just needs not to die, pretty much. He's going to be pressured, like I said, the entire game because of that defensive line with Okafor and Nick Bosa and all of them. DeForest Buckner, D Ford, Nick Bosa and all of them. They're going to be pressuring Patrick Mahomes the entire game. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go through that. They might do screens. They need to get a rushing attack going. They might need to go the college route where if you can't get a rushing attack going, you just throw a bunch of screens. But we'll see what happens there in the final minute of this segment. So here's my official prediction. I think the 49ers are going to come out of this game with a victory. And I hate saying that because I want Andy Reid to win so bad. I am such an Andy Reid fan. I'm a fan of Patrick Mahomes. I'm a fan of the Chiefs. I want the Chiefs to win, but I think the 49ers will take this game. The 49ers just have the rushing attack. The 49ers literally have everything that Kansas City is bad against. They have the rushing attack. They have the defensive line that can manhandle the Chiefs' offensive line. Stuff like that. So I think the 49ers are going to come out early. The Chiefs will eventually kind of claw their way back and make it close. So I'm going with the 27-24 game here. But I'm going with the 49ers on this one. I think the 49ers are going to win. I think Kyle Shanahan, like I said, they'll take an early lead, but they'll actually rush the ball instead of what the Falcons did a couple years ago because Kyle Shanahan learned from his mistakes. So we will see. We'll see how it goes tonight at 6:30. So we'll see how that goes. Up next, we'll talk about something not Super Bowl related, but still football related. We'll talk about the NFL Awards, Rookie of the Year, MVP. We'll discuss all that next.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
So, of course, since the Super Bowl is going on, we have the NFL Honors Awards that happened last night, February 1st, 5 p.m. They celebrated another year of excellence in the NFL with Super Bowl 54, less than 24 hours away. Here's a complete list of winners. Pepsi Rookie of the Year is the San Francisco 49ers defensive end, Nick Bosa. He deserves it. He had a hell of a year as a defensive lineman. Then Players of the Year, the FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Year. You have Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, who won in the air category. Then you have the Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry in the ground category, which I think FedEx missed an opportunity to give Lamar Jackson both. I think that's a missed opportunity. But that makes sense. Lamar Jackson, he killed people in the air. He surprised some people with his arm ability and his passing ability. But Derrick Henry, of course, wins the ground because Derrick Henry had a great year this year, and he's going to make a lot of money after this. So Defensive Player of the Year, AP Defensive Player of the Year, New England Patriots, Stephon Gilmore, which I've seen some people get a little angry about this. I think it's fine. He had a great year this year. He led the Patriots defense, which is really good defense. And they had a lot of turnovers. He had a lot of turnovers. It makes sense. I agree. So, Salute Service Award presented by USAA, former Chargers linebacker Donnie Edwards. I don't really have anything to add to that. Rookie of the Year, AP Offensive Rookie of the Year, Arizona Cardinal quarterback Kyler Murray. I've seen a lot of people get angry about this because everybody thinks that the Rookie of the Year award is just kind of a quarterback award, that Kyler Murray should not have won it because he's a quarterback, because this award just goes to quarterbacks all the time, which I can see that argument. I can see why people are not happy about that. But he still had over 4,000 yards. He single-handedly kept the Cardinals somewhat relevant this year. He let Larry Fitzgerald come back, or he's helping get Larry Fitzgerald back, which I'm all for. So, yeah, there you go. Kyler Murray, I think he's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic player for Oklahoma, and he had a pretty good year. I admittedly didn't watch the Cardinals games this year because the Cardinals are bad, but Kyler Murray still put up some good stats, still showed potential there. AP Offensive Player of the Year, New Orleans Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas, which makes sense. He's one of the best receivers in the game now. Hopefully he doesn't go crazy like the other best receiver in the game. But yeah, Michael Thomas, he always gets open. He's a great route runner. He's got hands. So makes sense that he's Player of the Year. He was big time for the Saints this year. Rookie of the Year, AP Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to Nick Bosa. So makes sense. Like we mentioned before, Nick Bosa had a bunch of sacks. He's been a monster. He's been a monster on that defensive line, helping that defensive line become one of the best defensive lines in the league. So, Nick Bosa. Then, of course, you have the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2020, which is safety Steve Atwater, wide receiver Isaac Bruce, guard Steve Hutchinson, running back Edgerrin James, and then safety Troy Polamalu, as some people like to call him. I think they're all deserved. I don't really have any further notes on all these dudes. I know people were mad that Reggie Wayne didn't get in, but he'll get in eventually. He's a fantastic receiver, so he'll get in eventually. I feel like receivers usually don't get in their first time on their first ballot. So the Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award went to Washington Redskins running back Adrian Peterson, which I don't really know what the qualifications for this award are, but Adrian Peterson, it's a great guy from all accounts that I've seen. He seems like a cool guy and everything he does, so good for him for winning that. Like I said, I don't really know what that entails, but good for him. AP Comeback Player of the Year, Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill, which makes a lot of sense. Ryan Tannehill, he's a comeback player of the year. He played for the Dolphins for the longest time. Didn't really do much with the Dolphins. Then he goes to the Titans, and he has a great year. And now, some people think because of his playoff performance that he was just the quarterback behind Derrick Henry. But he had a great regular season. Throughout the regular season, he had a great regular season. He had a great game against the Chiefs in that last playoff game. And he had a solid performance this year, especially in him winning this game, winning this award, even though he came in like halfway through the season after Mariota got the boot. It's pretty impressive. So we'll move on. AP Assistant Coach of the Year goes to the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman, which makes sense because they used Lamar Jackson in different ways. They used that offense in so many different ways. They had RG3 on the team, use RG3 in a bunch of different ways. So Greg Roman, I approve of that one. Bridgestone Clutch Performance Play of the Year, Miami Dolphins Mountaineer Shot, as punter Matt Hack threw a trick play shovel pass touchdown to kicker Jason Sanders, which I can't recall that play off the top of my head, but just that description makes me think, yeah, it deserves it. So, like I said, I don't remember the play off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm down for any shovel pass touchdown to a kicker. So, there we go. Deacon Jones Award, Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive end Shaquille Barrett. Bud Light Celly of the Year, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver core for NSYNC Bye 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 dance, which that's well deserved because everybody was talking about that dance for that entire week. Everybody was like syncing it up to the song, and they were like perfectly in sync, so it made sense. Don Shula NFL High School Coach of the Year Award go to Matt Land, Dalton High School in Dalton, Georgia. Don't know. That's near my neck of the woods, but I don't know who that is. But good for him. Courtyard Unstoppable Performance of the Year, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes in Week 2 versus the Raiders, which, hold on, let me look at this stat real quick. Week 2, versus the Raiders. They won 28-10. They had 436 passing yards and only 1 turnover. So, it's all right. It was all right. I feel like you could have chose a lot of different games, but he went 30 for 44 with 443 yards, 4 touchdowns, only took 2 sacks for 7 yards, and -1 rushing yards, but we're not going to. He also fumbled the ball. I feel like you could have probably chose a better game for Patrick Mahomes, but that's just me. But anyways, AP Coach of the Year goes to Baltimore Ravens coach John Harbaugh, which makes a lot of sense because what he did with Lamar Jackson, a lot of people were against Lamar Jackson, and just what he did with that. And then also the defense over in Baltimore was also really good. So that makes a lot of sense. John Harbaugh, one of the best coaches in the league, and people don't really recognize that, I feel like. So good for him. Then Daily Fantasy Player of the Year Award, presented by DraftKings, Carolina Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey, which makes so much sense. He is such a monster. He's a great running back. He's a great receiver. He does whatever you need him to do, which is fantastic. So good for Christian McCaffrey there. That's very deserved. And then, of course, most valuable player went to Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, which, people knew about this since like week 10, pretty much. He had a great year. He defied critics with his arm, and he also used his legs to extend plays and, for running. So very deserved. And then, of course, the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide Jacksonville Jaguars defensive lineman Calais Campbell. Good for him. I don't know anything that he did to get that award, but I'm sure he deserves it. So there you go. That's it. That was the Super Sunday episode of the GSMC Sports Podcast. If you would like to follow GSMC Sports on Twitter or social media, it is GSMC_sports. You can follow, and rate us on the beautiful app that you're currently listening to me on, which is Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you follow the NFL podcast we have here, the GSMC football podcast or whatever. Follow them as well. They'll probably give you more in depth than I did here. But most importantly, enjoy your Super Bowl. Be safe out there. Hope the commercials are good. Hope the halftime show is entertaining, and I hope the game is fantastic. So everybody enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.